Hi there, Zam here for NerdTube. These are my thoughts and spoilers of Peaky Blinders, Season 6, Episode 4, Sapphire. Now, this was a very artsy episode, and like the previous episode, somber as well, which is what I described the previous episode, but there's definitely a massive layer of grief, and you kind of see it on Thomas Shelby's face throughout this particular episode. Okay, so this episode begins with the funeral of Ruby Shelby, Thomas's daughter. She has a classic gypsy funeral where her body is left in a caravan and they set that caravan on fire. Prior to the caravan being burnt, Thomas mentions very briefly under his breath that he will get revenge for the people who did this to Ruby Shelby, which is something his partner initially thought, what the fuck is going on? Because Thomas Shelby's wife, Lizzie, so I've got their names next to me, so I'm having to remind myself their names. Lizzie's thinking, what the fuck are you doing, Thomas? You know, like, we should be grieving our daughter here, not you looking for revenge. She did die of tuberculosis, so there shouldn't be anybody to get revenge against. But nevertheless, Thomas feels like he has to, and he does. He gets a machine gun out. I believe it could have been, no, it wasn't a Tommy gun, but nevertheless, he gets a machine gun out, and he just goes to his gypsy campsite and shoots the living shit out of several members of the campsite. Even though there's kids at this campsite as well, Thomas doesn't fucking care. He does have a little bit of regret afterwards. And it's also to do with and related to that blue sapphire. The sapphire that's cursed, the sapphire which apparently took the life away of his previous wife. And now, because the sapphire is under the ownership of these gypsies, Thomas seems to be taking their life away as well. That sapphire is definitely truly cursed. What I find a bit strange so far of Season 6 is the lack of Finn Shelby, the youngest of the Shelby brothers. He is, I wouldn't say necessarily all grown up. I mean, he might be a young man by now, but the fact that all we saw was a tiny ass glimpse of him at the funeral of Ruby, and we haven't really seen him step up elsewhere, considering Ada's got to do her motherly duties. Arthur is a drunk. Thomas is obviously in grief. Like, Finn should be stepping up a little bit more. John being dead, of course, meant that Finn would be probably taking his place. But that hasn't really been the case in this season, so I'm a bit upset by that. I want to see more of Finn Shelby. Now, initially, when Thomas was shooting up the shit out of this gypsy campsite, I thought he was getting revenge because he felt like he was being bullshitted by Esma being John's wife, John, the late brother of Thomas. So that wasn't the case, because it was Esma, instructing Thomas what to do, and I'm just finding it hard to believe that Thomas is falling for her bullshit, because you can just tell that Esma is basically playing Thomas, but Thomas can't see it, which is kind of bizarre. She even mentions that this boy who they see from Thomas's car is apparently Thomas's son, and he has ambitions for doing better things and more things, and not just working at a carnival site. I don't know if we're going to be getting any more from that, as we only got a couple of episodes left. But this still could be Esma just playing more tricks on Thomas. So, I don't know. We'll see how all that pans out. During the wake, so to speak, of Ruby Shelby, Thomas ends up having a heart-to-heart conversation with Arthur, who's down in the basement where all the alcohol is, and he's just wasted as usual. And their conversation is about what they were doing when they were kids, and apparently Arthur, who's like 3 years older than Thomas, they had a fight when they were children. Arthur was 12, Thomas was 9, and apparently at 9 years old, Thomas beat the shit out of Arthur. Now, we kind of find out that Arthur let Thomas beat him up, because apparently he wanted Thomas to rise a little bit and, be more, self-assured of himself. And that was the sort of idea Thomas had regarding Arthur. But their moment together was very cool, very interesting, a brotherly bond. And with all the shit that Thomas has gone through, he finally has a drink after 4 years. Now, he doesn't necessarily get absolutely wasted. I don't think he gets wasted at all. But he does have his drink. and he tells Arthur, "Listen, you're gonna sort your shit out, and I'm going to rule the fucking world, or take on the world, or something like that," and then takes another sip. But I think with the scenario and situations happening around Thomas regarding his daughter, I felt he needed to deal with the grief in any way he could, which is why he had his first drink after 4 years. We then get the meeting between the IRA lady, as I want to call her at this moment in time, but her name does escape me. We have Jack Carlson, we have Oswald Mosley, and his partner as well, his mistress, and they're all sitting around a dining table at Thomas's estate. Now, prior to Thomas introducing himself to them, the Irish lady kind of gets forced into singing a song, and then we see that song being sung. We see a little montage of shit going down. We first of all see Ada Shelby getting fucked over by some Nazis. Well, I apologize. She doesn't get fucked over by Nazis. She gets harassed by Nazis because she's looking after a black child, and these Nazis throw a brick through her window. And Ada, being the sort of girl that doesn't take any shit from anybody, just walks down there, and faces up to a bunch of lads who are giving it large, and then she fucking pulls a gun out, and they all fucking shit themselves. I love Ada Shelby. She's fucking great. Arthur, who's supposed to be getting his life back on track, unfortunately isn't. He goes to the Chinese opium houses, and I think those people at those houses have been told not to give anything to Arthur, but nevertheless, Arthur, being the gangster that he is, just goes there, fucks the place up a little bit, and just steals a whole bunch of opium and shit, and then walks out because he's an addict, and that's how he is. We also see Thomas Shelby's eyes, his pale blue eyes, as he's just looking at Oswald's partner and the table in general, and just getting an idea of what he's about to do. And as I said earlier, throughout this episode, he is just stricken with grief, and the grief never really leaves his face. He's a miserable man in this episode, and he can't hide it. His daughter's dead, obviously. And as he makes a deal with the devil, so to speak, Jack Carlson, Mosley, and their associates, he does a Hitler salute. I mean, it's not known as a Hitler salute yet, because this is prior to the Second World War. But we hear stories of, like Jews being told to eat grass and stuff like that. I mean, like, these people who Thomas is associating himself with are despicable human beings. And you do feel that Thomas definitely has a plan for these fuckers. But he does need Jack Carlson so he can sell his opium to Boston. And once he does that sort of Nazi salute, Jack Carlson buys into the fact that yes, he can do business with a man like this. Oswald Mosley, somebody who's very influential. Jack Carlson believes that Oswald can easily rally troops to fight for their cause, whatever that really may be at this moment in time. Fascism definitely is the play, but it hasn't really been kind of like explained and molded into an overall entity that we know that there's going to be a Second World War just around the corner from where they are at this moment in time. But still, we don't know what these guys' involvements are in it, and we don't know how long Oswald is going to be lasting. I'm sure he'll be a dead man before the season ends, considering this is the last season, and maybe Jack Carlson as well. We find out that Gina Gray, played by the fantastic and gorgeous Anya Taylor-Joy, is having an affair with Oswald Mosley as well, and Thomas Shelby catches he doesn't catch them together, but he sees Oswald leaving her apartment, which she has in London, and then walks into that apartment after they've had their sex, and there's Gina Gray, totally shocked to see Thomas there, and Thomas is able to use the situation to blackmail Gina to a degree, kind of being her spy, saying, look, I expect you to be with Oswald in Berlin. I want you to get me as much information as possible from them as well. This puts obviously Gina in a predicament because She is having an affair with Oswald. She is also the niece of Jack Carlson, who's a devout Catholic and wouldn't want to see women in his circle behave in such ways. So yeah, she's going to probably do the bidding of Thomas. This episode kind of ends with Thomas finding out that he has a tumor. His doctor's been trying to get hold of him, and Thomas is was ignoring him because he was in so much grief regarding the daughter, and he was not being cooperative when it came to the doctor trying to tell him because what it is with his own personal well-being, because he was he was so distraught because of the death of his daughter. But when finally like the dust has settled a little bit, a doctor does tell Thomas what's happening with him and why he's having these seizures, why he's having these fits, and it's to do with a mild tumor in the back of his head that can't be worked on. No surgery, no doctor in the country wants to deal with that particular problem, and Thomas finds out that he's got a year, maybe 18 months before he becomes so much of an invalid that he'll need people to look after him. So Thomas' time is running out, and it's going to be this is where things get a bit interesting now. It kind of reminds me of Arthur Morgan's situation in Red Dead Redemption 2, where I think Thomas now will realize that he has to tie up as many loose ends as possible and resolve as many of his situations as possible before he's unable to do anything, and before he becomes so weak that he will probably get taken advantage of. And now the clock is ticking. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. This is something probably Thomas didn't realize that he needed. Nobody needs this, but this is just another added layer of his problems, and this is one problem he can't deal with. He just has to, in a way, do it as quickly, or do whatever other problems he has to deal with them as quickly as humanly possible before the problem of his tumor becomes a situation that will devour him, and he won't be able to. He can't run away from it, but it would obviously stop him from dealing with his other problems, which he does feel that he can handle. So it's going to be very interesting to see where we go in the future regarding this. This is also telling us as viewers that, yep, the time is coming for Thomas Shelby. Whether he lives through all the shenanigans he's dealing with, it won't matter, because he will eventually die, and there is nothing he can do about it. So I'm hoping things start to pick up the next episode or two, because we've had two very dour episodes, especially this one. I mean we kind of expected that, considering his daughter died, and some of the ways he's trying to get around the grief, like he's even burning his daughter's chair, because I think seeing it just makes him so uncomfortable. And him and his relationship with his wife is a bit topsy-turvy. I'm sure she'll stay with him, but at the same time she's grief-stricken as well. That's her daughter. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Obviously the fascists as well. It's going to be interesting to see how that shit pans out. Thomas has people who are black and mixed race in his organization, so he has people like Isaiah in his group, Jeremiah, his partner, it's not his partner, Ada, his sister, has a young black daughter that he's looking after too. I think he's also friendly with the Chinese in the opium houses as well. He's got a good relationship with them, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how the fascists handle all of this, and how Thomas is able to balance all of these and not have any of his friends and colleagues, get fucked over because of what he decides to do. It's going to be very interesting. I hope things pick up in the next couple of episodes, because I'm done with grief now. I want shit to hit the fan. And don't get me wrong, there were a couple of moments where it was like that, but that was because of the grief. Now I just want some fucking, I want some blood stains, and I want some people to get fucked over. Maybe a massive death, somebody high profile getting killed off. Next episode, or before the penultimate episode or the final episode. I mean, the final episode you do expect Thomas possibly to die, but it would be really cool if someone of significance died in the next episode too. We'll see how all that pans out. There's only a couple of episodes left and it's done. 2 episodes, I believe, and then we're done. Peaky Blinders is over forever, for good. So let's go out with a bang, shall we? Let me know what you think regarding this episode and the season so far. And don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care. Bye-bye.